Let's go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Monday afternoon. Another edition of the NBA Report, Knicks Fan TV simulcast, and salute to everybody watching on Bleacher Report. TP the franchise in the building. Joining me today, you can catch him on New York Post Sports. He is our guy, Dexter Henry, man, the man of New York. On today's episode, we are going to react to an action-packed NBA weekend, reacting to the best of Game 1, the Knicks swinging first, the Timberwolves sending a message in Hollywood, the Chef and Jimmy Buckets put on a show in H-Town. We got a lot to talk about, man, so let's get into it. Hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Dex, how you feeling, man?
Feeling good, man. It was this is one of my favorite times of the year, favorite weekends of the year, right? You get all the playoff games. We had some good ones. We had some ones that were not so good as well, too. Yeah. But it was a good weekend, a good Easter weekend, and if you're a Knicks fan, a great Easter weekend.
Yes, indeed, indeed. And I want to talk about what you did on Saturday night for Game 1, Knicks versus Pistons, because you guys had a live watch-along. You brought in a guest, our guy Doug Lust. How was the watch-along, man? How did that go?
Yo, that was fun. It's only the second one we did. We're trying to do some more of these. We're doing another one tonight. Our guest is Al Cintron from WFAN.
Nice.
He's gonna be rocking with us. But it was a lot of fun with Doug because Doug and I had never met in person. We had obviously a huge fan of what he does.
Yes.
With his music recaps. And then, he had reached out, told me he was a fan of New York Got Game. And so I was like, man, you should come through and watch the game. So we're gonna try to have some good guests on during the but Doug brought the energy. So Al now has to top that, but Al can top it. He can do that.
Yeah, Al can talk, man. He could definitely talk. And shout out to Doug. He's definitely a good dude. So let's get right into it, man. Game 1 at the Garden Saturday night. The Knicks beat the Pistons 123-112, sparked by a 21-0 fourth quarter run that nearly tore the roof off of Madison Square Garden, man. What'd you think about the game, the run? What were your Game 1 reactions?
So it was funny watching the game because, and watching Doug, who was next to me, going through all the emotions because it was, I felt it for the Knicks fans too because it was an uneasy game. You never really felt like the Knicks had control even when they were playing pretty well in the first half. I think you got to like the defense. I'm mad at myself. I doubted Jaylen Brunson in the first half because I was like, man, he doesn't look right. After he tweaked the ankle, I was like, I don't know. Maybe Tibbs should sit him in the fourth quarter. But Jaylen Brunson did Jaylen Brunson things, right? Campaign. I don't even know what to say. That was a performance. But one thing I did say, and you can look back at the watch along, I did say this at the start of the fourth quarter. I said the first 4 minutes were going to be instrumental. You were going to know about the Pistons' lack of experience and the Knicks' experience that they have, right? And that showed immediately from the very first possession, a 5-second call. And that's when I said, I don't know if the Pistons are ready for prime time here. And they were not ready for prime time. The Knicks put on the clamps. The 21-0 run is impressive as anything I've seen in a Knicks playoff run. I think it was their largest run that they've had in a game, in a playoff game, in something like 30-plus years. Yeah. So it was really impressive. I think I'm always a big believer, CP, and teams learn how to win games through the regular season. And though this regular season might have been disappointing for some of the Knicks fans, I think you saw something that we had seen time and time again in the regular season is that the team doesn't quit. They're good in clutch situations. And there's a lot of veterans on this team to get this done. But I think there was a lot of praise to go around. And I think somebody who actually really deserves a lot of flowers here is Tom Thibodeau. I thought that he coached a really good game. I like the fact that he went to Landry Shamet for 10 minutes in the first half. He went 9 deep. I'm not sure if he'll do that again. I like the fact that he stuck with campaign when he had it going. He read the game the right way to me, and I think that's something Knicks fans have been asking for, and you hope you see it in Game 2 and going forward.
You saw a lot of interesting rotations there by Tibbs, man, and people are asking, what does he have up his sleeve? What is he saving? Look, so we saw Twin Tower looks with the Block Ness Monster and Karl Anthony Towns out there. I thought Mitch's minutes were great. Landry Shamet, the first player off the bench was Landry Shamet. He went 9 deep in the rotation, and as you said, in the fourth quarter for major minutes, that closing unit, it was Campaign, Jaylen Brunson, it was Josh, OG, Karl Anthony Towns. That was a big, big group in that fourth quarter. It wasn't Mikal Bridges for a lot of it. Even though Mikal, I thought, was solid defensively,
I agree.
He stuck with Payne and he rewarded him, and rightfully so, because the start of that fourth quarter, as you mentioned, was started by two Detroit back-to-back turnovers. The 5-second violation, why did that happen? Cam Payne picking up 90 feet. Changed the pace, changed the energy, and set a tone. Then the Knicks scored. Karl Anthony Towns baseline jumper. The next possession, shot clock violation on the Pistons. Come back down, Big Bodega splashes a three. That's when the crowd started getting back into it, and that's when I felt like, all right, we're starting to loosen things up right now. I feel like they're about to break things open, and they certainly did. So great job by Cam Payne in really just giving that bench that energy because, even though Landry came in first, he wasn't impactful. And surprisingly, which I don't think is going to be consistent, Deuce. It looked like the moment was a little too big for Deuce on Saturday. Had a couple of air balls, was a little overzealous. I think he'll calm down, but thank God for Cam Payne, man. 14 points in those minutes off the bench.
Cam Payne was amazing. I think Deuce bounces back tonight. He's a player I'm telling people to watch. I think Deuce has a really good game tonight. I have a good vibe about that. I think he has a good game tonight. But listen, Cam Payne was tremendous. He gave them what they needed off the bench. They needed exactly that, and he gave them. It wasn't just the offense and the threes he hit, and the confidence to take some of those shots.
Right.
But it was the defense, like you said, CP. He was getting up in the grill of players. He was all up in Malik Beasley, and I like that testiness. Doug on the broadcast with us was saying, we need some dogs in there, and Cam Payne came in. And he played like a dog, and it's the kind of dog you play like, right? He was no poodle. He was a pit bull out there, and he got it done. And I think the Knicks. They've heard the talk. I've been saying this before the series. I think they heard a lot of the talk about Detroit, how they would push them. I think the Knicks are going to feed off this energy. I think the crowd is going to be hyped. The crowd, Stephen Bondy told me this yesterday. He said the crowd was dead.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you were at the Ainsworth doing your thing with your party.
I was at the Ainsworth first, then I was at the game. So I was in the mix.
I didn't know you went to the game. I didn't know that.
I was in the building. That. So you could feel it when they were down 9. Because my whole section, like our section was really good. We had a good group. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a great group of rambunctious fans. So it's always good when you're around those types. But when the Pistons started going up and Nick started turning the ball over, making bad decisions, and the crowd's like, oh, what is going on here? That's all you heard.
But nothing in my opinion.
Yeah.
And out of all the sports teams I've been around covering New York, nothing is better than the Knicks at the Garden when there's a shift. Nothing is better than that. When that energy shifts, CP, it's something magical, especially when it's down, like what you said, like that uneasiness, that game one, we're going to blow this or we're going to lose this. But when it shifts,
it's nothing like
it.
It's nothing like it, man.
Nothing like
it. And so, that fourth quarter run was crazy. But as you said, you knew there were certain constants going into this. The Pistons were going to play hard. They were going to be physical. They did that. But the inexperience did show, not just in those two turnovers in the fourth, but how about three 3-second violations? Damn near in the first. I think 2 in the first, 1 in the second half. There were a lot of mistakes that the young Pistons made that you expected. And so that helped the Knicks because the Pistons are a team that turns the ball over as well. So I thought the Knicks were very opportunistic there. Well, let's talk about the head of the snake with Cade. I love the defensive effort against Cade. I think one of the guys on the Pistons podcast, Landscape, was saying I think they had blitzed and trapped him about 34 to 36 times. And OG, who started the game off on him, as I expected, relentless pursuit. Did never let him get settled. 21 points on 21 shots. That was a win for the Knicks.
Oh, yeah. Huge win. And huge credit to OG Anunoby, who was a demon on the defensive end. I mean, he was tremendous. I thought even some of the possessions, and I'm glad you gave him credit earlier, the Knicks fans have been hard on Mikal Bridges. I thought Mikal Bridges' defense in this game was solid. I think there were times you saw Cade use his physicality against him, but, that's to be expected. I thought Mikal Bridges had fantastic contests. I thought he did a really good job in here. People are going to look at the offensive numbers. I will say this. If Mikal Bridges plays defense like he did in game 1 and you get mediocre production out of him offensively, I think you'll take that. You'll be fine. You'll be fine with that because you want to see that effort on defensive end. But what they did with Cade, CP, absolutely a win. If he's going to take him 21 shots to get 21 points, and a lot of the points he had, we should probably be looking at about maybe 16, 15 points because the rest of those buckets came in garbage time.
Right.
So I thought they really held him. If you look at it to 15, 16 points here, they did a fantastic job. Now, how do the Pistons adjust here to try to make things a little bit easier for Cade, right? Is it moving him a little bit off the ball? Not really what you want to do because now you're asking someone like Malik Beasley or Tim Hardaway Jr. to start, running some of the action. But I think they're going to try to find ways to do that. I would expect the Knicks to come with OG again to start.
Yes.
I think you'll still see some of Mikal Bridges on him too. But OG just can get so physical with him and get up in his space that there's really not much he can do. And Cade's got to adjust to that. This is his first time in the playoffs. This is a very physical all-world defender in OG Anunoby, and he's got to adjust. I think Cade will still have a game in the series where he'll probably look pretty good. But, hey, if OG's going to put him in the torture chamber, man, it could be a long series for him.
The dog was relentless. I do think we could see a little bit more off-ball activity just in terms of, and the Knicks have to be on guard for that, some of the off-ball screens where they will try to get Cade and pull Brunson into the action? Or is it some sort of misdirection where you're getting a lot of backdoor cuts and guys are cutting to the basket? They also like to run those curl screens to free up Malik Beasley, to free up Tim Hardaway Jr. Knicks also have to be on guard for that. But I think, the game plan in terms of disrupting things for Cade and living with the open shots that Beasley and Timmy take and maybe even a Tobias take, maybe you just live with that just as long as offensively you can maintain and ultimately take the lead where you can, because the Knicks have enough offensive depth where I do believe that they can crack that armor in terms of the Pistons defense, which they did in the fourth quarter, just as long as they, number one, get after it on the boards, continue to control the glass, and also limit their mistakes. That's where they got into trouble, especially in the end of that third, where it was, just like boneheaded plays. Like, there's certain turnovers I don't mind, but ones where you just like coughing the ball up, that's where the Pistons are most opportunistic. And as soon as they get that ball, Asar's out there in transition getting dunks, or Malik Beasley's waiting out there on the elbow or the corner, and Timmy as well for those threes. That's what the Knicks can't have tonight. And they're going to be up against a very desperate, I would expect, Pistons team who doesn't want to go back to Detroit down 2-0.
Yeah, they don't want. I think you brought up a good point. Stephen Bondy had thrown this back at me on New York Got Game this week. He said, I asked him what he thought some of the keys were to the game, and he asked me, he said, what do you think, Dex? And I said, I think one of them is they have to take care of the ball again. The Knicks did a pretty good job. CP, you're right. You're right, though. They could even had less turnovers. They had 9 in the game compared to Detroit's 19. They could have had less had they not had some sloppy turnovers, as you rightfully mentioned at the end of the third. So I think winning that margin again, the rebound, the glass, they did a decent job. They still gave, Jaylen Brunson had 5 offensive rebounds. I would like to see the Knicks defensive rebound a little bit better. I think they can get better in that regard. That's something they could clean up and be even better. Got to finish those defensive possessions. There were a couple of possessions where it was like, man, they should have had those rebounds, and then they got to kick out threes for Tobias Harris, for Malik Beasley, like you mentioned. As far as you said about the game plan with the Knicks and who they're going to let beat them, I agree. You got to make life difficult for Cade. You have to see if these other guys can beat you. Something I said on our broadcast was, look, Tim Hardaway Jr., I don't know how the Knicks fans here feel about him. This is a man who's been traded by this team twice. He is looking to try to prove something against his former team. And sometimes that kind of player like Tim Hardaway Jr., he can shoot you in a game, but he can also shoot you out of it.
That's it.
And he did that at the end of the game. He took some shots, and I was like, it wasn't going to go in the fourth. I knew it. What you want with Tim Hardaway Jr. is you want him to get going early because it's probably not going to happen late. And that's exactly what happened. See if those guys can beat you late. See if Malik Beasley, Tobias Harris, those guys can beat you late. I like the strategy. I think the Knicks can be a little bit better on their closeouts on three-pointers. I think you would agree with that, CP. But I think the defensive strategy to make life rough for Cade and let others beat you is a good one against this team that is not that experienced. Granted, the guys that were hitting the shots that we just mentioned, Tobias Harris, Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., these are guys who have playoff experience. I just don't know if you trust them all the time down the stretch.
Good question. Good points. Last question on this series, the Captain Jaylen Brunson. You mentioned the word late. It was late later in the game when he got into a rhythm offensively, and coincidentally, it was after he tweaked the ankle a couple of times, right? Tibbs said he went out and got the cape, but finished the fourth quarter shooting 4-7 from the field, 8-12 in the second half for 34 points. And I also thought that earlier in the game, yes, Detroit was being physical with him. They showed him a lot of attention between Asar, Malik Beasley, Dennis Schroeder. Everybody got a chance to kind of throw him around. But he also, almost similar, it almost reminded me of the Philly series in Game 1 where there were a lot of buckets bunnies that he missed that I don't expect him to be missing over the course of this series, even if the ankle isn't the best. What are you expecting from the captain tonight?
Yeah, I'm not down him again because he figures things out.
Always.
We were talking about this on the show this week. The ability for him to figure things out, CP, while dealing with pain. We've seen this before.
Always.
That's real true mental toughness that you're seeing there. And I think he's figured things out. You're right. He missed some bunnies. He missed some of those easy runners and floaters in the lane that he normally gets, even moving away with contact that he's normally able to finish. I think he'll figure it out. Jaylen Brunson has seen in the last couple of years every kind of defense thrown at him, every kind of trap you could throw at him. He's usually ready. His guys the release guys are ready, whether it's Hart, whether it's Bridges, those guys have got to be ready. I expect a bounce back performance that's really efficient. I think he's going to try to come out and set the tone early on. I thought in Game 1 when he didn't have it early on, I was a little concerned because it felt like the offense was too heliocentric.
Yes, yeah.
And he was trying to play a little bit of hero ball. But look, I'm never going to doubt this man in terms of figuring it out. I'm just not going to do it. I think the fact that he came back, put on the cape, the sneakers, whatever you want to call it, and played with confidence and shot the ball well, I think that bodes well for the Knicks.
Yeah.
I think that's another confidence boost. Just seeing him come back on the court. We're not saying this is Willis Reed or anything like that, but just seeing him come back on the court and have that confidence and then play well within the flow of the offense in the second half, that's huge for this Knicks team. I expect Jaylen Brunson to be fine. He says he's fine. Jaylen Brunson's never going to tell you if he's not fine, though. That's the thing. He's never going to tell us in the media that. So I think he'll be fine, and I expect the captain to do what the captain does.
Absolutely, man. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Knicks Fan TV, NBA Report, salute. Bleacher Report, salute. And salute to everybody watching, man. Happy birthday to our guy, Jay Boogie. We see our franchise channel members in the chat. We see the Rhyme Animal Chuck D in the building. Early edition of the show. And speaking of Game 2, Knicks versus Pistons, man, make sure you guys pull up to the watch party, man. We will be back at the Ainsworth, 45 East 33rd Street. That is right here in New York City, man. DJ Eric L. Beats on the ones and twos, KFTV's own. We will have game audio. And as usual, man, after every quarter, somebody will be going home with a prize. And on Saturday, we gave away merch. Our guys at Baka Back Pages will be on site selling the Captain Clutch T-shirt, speaking of Jaylen Brunson. And the grand prize, we gave away 2 tickets to a future Knicks playoff game. So shout out to our guys at WAM, please, man. John Starks pulled up pregame. It was crazy at the Ainsworth.
I saw that, man. That was a dope moment for you.
It was crazy, man. And then we had the roof open. We had great weather, so we had the rooftop terrace open. So we got
which is nice. Which is nice at the Ainsworth.
Yeah.
The rooftop terrace is nice up there.
Yeah. So we got three different rooms that people can come and enjoy, and there's TVs everywhere, so you can't miss the game. So get your tickets at KFTVWatch.com or KnicksFanTV.com. All right, Dex. Let's go kind of rapid fire around the association game ones. Hey, another win that I was impressed by, and this was kind of like my sleeper team in the West, was the Timberwolves getting a win over the Lake Show. And it's very interesting because both of those teams, I feel like, have the potential to be out in the first round or potentially get to the finals. But the Timberwolves, in their 117-95 win, I think they've kind of flown under the radar in terms of, number one, how they finished the season on a high, healthy, and very formidable, man. 117-95. They hit over 23 pointers in this game, and they played a game where I felt like they would give the Lakers trouble with their size, with their depth, and with Ant-Man, who didn't shoot the ball all well during the game, but he had some clutch moments there. Damn near had a triple-double.
Yeah, and he didn't even shoot well, which is scary, right? Like that's the scary part. You know who shot well? Knicks fans know Julius Randle.
Yes.
Haven't seen him shoot like this in the playoffs, right? Before Knicks fans are like, where was this before?
Yeah.
Now, listen, they shot the ball extremely well, but you hit the point that I thought could give the Lakers trouble. I'm very intrigued to see how they bounce back in Game 2 in the series, and it's dealing with their size, right? Just knowing you have Gobert, you got Randle, who's a physical player, you got Nas Reed. That's one that did concern me. You had a pick. Who'd you pick in the series, CP?
Who did I pick in this series, man?
Did you pick? I think you would lean the Timberwolves, if I remember correct.
Yeah, I gotta go. Yeah, we did. We talked about this last week. I gotta go back and see who I picked in this one, man.
And I told you
Yeah.
I leaned Lakers, but I in 7, but I could see it going the other way.
Yeah.
And you never want to react too early to a game one. And I remember one of our concerns last week we were talking about was Conley. How would Conley be able to play on the floor? The Lakers weren't able to hurt him in that game one. Conley was 22 minutes. He was a plus 13, 9 points, 3 assists. I was looking at the stats here, and he's fine. But the Lakers, outside of Doncic, who had a fantastic first quarter,
Right.
nobody really played well for them, and they got to figure out how to defend. Now, I found it interesting that Coach Reddick, after the game, said, "Hey, we got to match our physicality. It kind of overwhelmed us here, and so the Lakers have to be better with that. The Lakers don't have a lot of size, and I just wonder if the Timberwolves are able to continue to punish that, and when they're hitting threes from the outside, combined with the first point you made, which is how well they played to close the season.
Yeah.
We might be not we, but folks might have been underestimating the Timberwolves. This is a team that went to the conference finals last year. I know it's a different look without Cat, but this is a team that has some experience going in, and maybe they're playing their best basketball at the right time. I think they easily could get to the conference finals. They could beat the Lakers, and then we'll see what happens when they get there. But it's a winnable series for them for sure.
Yeah, very winnable. I like their size to give the Lakers a lot of problems. They have a lot of depth. DiVincenzo, they had a good article in The Athletic about DiVincenzo, and they said he was watching the Knicks versus Pistons game beforehand. Just tap it in. He's still tapping in to say, like, yo, man, y'all need me over there. So he hasn't gotten over it, but he has played better for the Timberwolves to finish the season. So has Julius. They've talked highly about Julius in terms of the chemistry and how the different dynamic that he brings compared to Karl Anthony Towns, in particular his playmaking. So it seems like that their chemistry is coming together. And most importantly, to me, for them to reach their ceiling, Ant-Man has to be more than just that scorer. He has to make the team better. And that's why you saw, even though he didn't score the ball all that well, he was playmaking very well, played unselfish, found his teammates, and he was rewarded for it. So let's see what they bring in Game 2. But if the Lakers can't get more than 35 from between LeBron and Reeves, and Ant-Man was guarding Reeves, he had trouble. He went 5 of 13. LeBron 8 of 18. The three-point shooters that you needed, Dorian Finney-Smith and Gabe Vincent combined for 2 for 6. It's not going to get it done, Lake Show.
Not going to get it done.
That is not going to get it. Rui, 9 points, 5 rebounds. It's not going to get it done. So
they need better. They need better, and they need better starting on the defensive end. That's going to be the key for them. I think that Game 2, how the Lakers come out defensively in the first couple of minutes will be telling.
Absolutely, man. Nuggets and Clippers. This one was interesting in that, the Clippers were pretty much in command of this game. You had an outstanding third quarter by the Nuggets, man, which was led by Nikola Jokic, who accounted for like 18 of their points and assists off of like the 20-something points that they scored in the third quarter. So he was everything for them. They were able to force that into overtime, led by some really gritty play by Russell Westbrook, who ultimately the last gritty play he made turned into a Harden turnover that won the game in overtime. So it looks like the Nuggets stole one in Game 1. What'd you think?
They definitely stole one for sure. And you sometimes we're used to Russell Westbrook not making the play that needs to be made late in the game in overtime. But I thought this is one that, man, like now I worry about the Clippers, because I remember watching this game. They got out to such a big lead, and I was like, oh man, this is good for the Clippers. They're another team that have been playing fantastic basketball to close the season. They come in, they're trying to steal a Game 1 on the road in Denver. It felt like a game in this series they needed more. I did pick them in 7 in the series. But to lose the way they did, to blow that's a tough one sometimes to recover from, right? It's almost, I'm trying to think what's worse, like the way they lost or the way the Pistons lost to the Knicks, right? The Pistons may be a little bit different because they're a young team, but I think with the Clippers, with a veteran team like they have, the guys they have, that's a little bit shocking. But listen, the Nuggets seem to have like a newfound confidence. with the new head coach with Adam in there. They played very well. They're trusting Nikola Jokic. They're trying to get other guys involved, not as heavy with him with the usage. So I think it's a bad loss for the Clippers. I think, obviously Clippers, this is a must-win situation for them in game 2.
Yeah.
I think they really need to bounce back in a major way because they know they could give the Nuggets some problems, but they got to close. And we'll see. Ty Lue's one of the best. He'll have some good stuff cooked up for sure. But I still feel confident in my pick with the Clippers, but I love this series because I think a lot of these games are going to be fantastic.
I agree, man. Also, 20 turnovers for the Clippers in this game.
Yeah.
So, there was definitely a lot that they will regret. But overall, I still do like the Clippers. I like their overall balance with their depth-ish. Like, their bench isn't too heavy, but between the star power of Kawhi and Harden, you have Norman Powell sprinkling in, Nicholas Batum, the consummate vet, Zubac. I like their fit in terms of just winning this series. For Denver, I still think you're going to need Jokic, who, as I said, scored or assisted on 18 under 23 points in that third quarter. And he was great. And Brody filled in commendably. I thought Russell Westbrook was key here because one of the main storylines here was that David Adelman benched Michael Porter Jr., who was playing like it was the preseason in this one. And they're not going to go far if you don't get a great performance from Michael Porter Jr. or better than he did with 4 points in this game. You need way more from Michael Porter Jr., I think, for Denver to have a chance.
I just realized I didn't realize that he only took 4 shots.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I didn't realize he was -8, 3 points, only took 4 shots, hit a 3. They can't do, and you know why that can't happen, CP? We already know, people talk about the Knicks bench being thin.
Yeah.
The Nuggets bench is really thin. They only went 8 deep in this. They played Peyton Watson, Westbrook, and Jalen Pickett. So this is a team that needed everything they got out of Westbrook. But I kind of like that accountability from Coach Adelman there. All right, Porter, MPJ, you don't have it. We're gonna keep this thing moving elsewhere, and that was a key because some coaches may have went back to MPJ when he didn't have it. You said he looked like he was playing a preseason game.
Yeah.
You can't have that in the playoffs.
Can't do it. How about this one, man? This one was interesting because it got a little bit chippy between Dame and Halliburton. 117-98. The Pacers sent the Bucks a message again. What'd you think about this one, man?
Well, I'll tell you this with the Dame and Halliburton stuff. Dame's not the kind of guy I might be wanting to get chippy with, knowing he might come back in game 3.
Yeah.
Or at least that's when he's targeted to come because he's not that one. He's not that one for play.
Yeah.
I think in that game, you look at it if you're the Bucks and you don't have Dame, obviously, so it's hard to take a lot from it. Giannis did Giannis things, but he had no help. Where was Kyle Kuzma? I mean, you might as well still had Chris Middleton out there. Chris Middleton, who was a championship winner, but obviously towards the end of his time with the Bucks, just wasn't able to give them the same offensive spark that they needed. Kyle Kuzma, you're going to need more out of him. The Bucks, if they're going to survive this because of the pace that the Pacers play with, they're going to need some more from some other guys. Giannis, that roster is just not good enough for him to do it by himself. There's too many non-shooters. There's not another guy that can really pick up the scoring slack, and that's where Kuzma, not really a good look for him in this one, not being able to pick up the slack. Now, when Dame comes back, which it's crazy to me he's even coming back. Like, it's insane.
Good luck to
with
him.
the blood clots. But if he comes back and he's healthy, we hope he's healthy. Pacers, I wouldn't have lit a fire under him. He's not that man. I could see it. Would it shock you if you saw Dame come back in game 3, first game back? I know guys are usually rusty, but it wouldn't shock me if it was Dame and Dame gave him a nice 25, 26 piece on some efficient shooting. Wouldn't shock me.
It wouldn't shock me, but I tell you, man, the Pacers are one team in the East that I don't think anybody wants to face, and I do think they will win this series quite easily over the Bucks. I just think the Pacers have way too much offensively. It almost seems like they're built for the playoffs with their pace and their depth. This is another bad matchup in how they deal with Miles Turner and the way that they can space you out. Brook Lopez, it's food out there with the drop coverage. So I think the Bucks are going to be in trouble. Even though, yes, Dame is capable of having Dame games, who knows how he's going to pace himself with this coming back from this. And so this is the beginning of the end to me for Giannis with the Bucks, man, because when he's out there and he's looking at the supporting cast and he's giving it his all, blood, sweat, and tears, and you're looking at guys like, Kevin Porter, no disrespect to these guys, but Trent, Kuzma, 2 shots, this team they're not going anywhere, man. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, Look, that's going to be a fun conversation for the offseason too. But I agree with you. I think Indiana is a better team here. I also agree with you about the Indiana's built for the playoffs, the way they play with their depth. I do like how Carlisle uses his depth. He plays 10, 11 deep during the regular season.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to go 10 deep in the playoffs. I think it just makes a lot of sense. As far as the Bucks go, yeah, I don't know where you go from here. Dame's getting older. It's almost not. You felt like he was a supporting guy that Giannis needed, but it's not really about Dame. This isn't an indictment on Dame as much as it is, as you said, the other guys around him.
It's not fitting.
They're not as good defensively. That, especially with the bigs, that what you got from Brook Lopez 2 years ago.
Fantastic.
Brook Lopez can't defend like that. You see it in the drop coverage. He can't recover that way as he used to. He was so good at even getting out to the corners. He can't do that the same way anymore. So I don't know where that franchise goes. It's tough to see them trading trading Giannis because of what he is meant to the franchise. Obviously, winning their first title there in so long, but it's the only way they're going to get better. They have nothing else to trade that anybody wants.
Yeah. And then you had, Doc sounded kind of flustered in his post-game press conference. He's going in on the team for not giving Kuzma the ball. He's like, Kuzma only had 2 shots, and it was late in the shot clock. And I'm like, bro, you're the coach. Draw up a play for Kuzma to get him involved, because it's like you said, Dex, they might as well have just brought Chris Middleton back if you're only going to get 2 shots out of Kyle Kuzma with no Dame Lillard in this game. So that was definitely a blunder by the Bucks, and let's see what happens there in Game 2. Now, the other game I liked this weekend was last night's game, because the league gave you all the good games on Saturday and left Easter Sunday for all the duds. I guess they figured everybody was going to be at church and doing family things. So it was very interesting by the league to give us all the bum games until Rockets and Warriors, which got very interesting because, the Rockets, they were playing off of the emotions, off of the energy. I love my guy, Alperen Sengun, posterized Draymond Green. I love that part. I rewinded that part about 10 times.
I'm sure you did.
That was good. And it was interesting because the Rockets, they closed out hard on the Curry threes, right? They weren't giving the chef an inch on the threes, but the chef, being the chef, said, hey, I'm not just the greatest shooter of all time. I'll get buckets anywhere. So he was taking it inside on him, getting the scoop layups. He was going in. And then before you knew it, you look up, and Golden State has like a double-digit lead because Jimmy's killing him. And then back to the chef. Now things open up in the second half. The chef is just blowing them away with threes. And before you knew it, it was ball game Warriors, man. Got a decisive win on the road in H-Town, 95-85. Your thoughts on this one?
This was easily the best game of Sunday. I think it was kind of predictable. It was really good. You got to give the Rockets a little bit of credit. They hadn't hosted a home playoff game in, I think, 5 years.
Yeah.
They come out with good energy, but you saw immediately for a road team like the Warriors with their championship DNA, a guy like Jimmy Butler who's been to the finals twice, and they just responded. And then even when the Rockets made their run in the third and fourth quarter and got it down 2-3 a couple of times, they just came right back and closed, and they're closers. And I think that's gonna be the difference in the series. The Warriors have 2 closers. We have no idea who the closer is for the Rockets.
Right.
We have no idea at all who the closer is for the Rockets, and that's no shade on anybody. I like Amen Thompson. I think he's going to be tremendous. I like Sengun. I loved what he did to Draymond Green. Nice facialized poster there. But who closes for this team? And you saw them. You could literally see it in real time, CP. They're trying to figure it out. Like, yo, who do we go to here? Is this an Amon possession? Is this Fred VanVleet, who did hit some big shots after struggling in this game down the stretch, but they don't have a true closer. I still think that can be established on this team. They're trying to work that out. One thing I'll say is they're an Ime Udoka coach team. I love Ime Udoka's coaching. They're going to play hard. They play defense. This is not going to be easy games for the Warriors.
Yeah.
But I think the Warriors championship DNA, that experience, and guys who've closed before in big-time postseason games, and Curry and Butler, you saw it late. Those guys were fantastic. And look, that's why the Warriors think they can play with anybody. Yeah. Now, the one thing I would say to watch, and I think you will agree with me on this, CP, you got to watch Draymond and his emotions, because he was on the edge a couple of times in this game, and I'm like, yo, what's going to happen, bro? You going to cost your team playoff games? Or he's trying to start something with Sengun late in the fourth. Like, what are you doing? So watch that. but I thought Moses Moody, I think some of their role players were starting to play better.
Yeah.
Kerr is sticking very tight to his rotation. He's playing Draymond a lot of minutes as an undersized center. But look, they got the guys, man. They got that's a tough Warriors team. They're battle tested. Tough team.
I did pick Golden State in this one because I picked the experience of their stars over the inexperience of the Rockets. Just as you said, I don't believe the Rockets have enough talent to go deep into the playoffs. They're still one player away. Is it going to go get Devin Booker? I don't think they should go get KD. That would ruin their entire momentum. But a guy like a Book, I think that would be a good pickup for them. But we'll see what they do in the offseason. But either way, hey, good team, good scrapping team. But with Golden State, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, they got 31 from Curry, 25 from Jimmy. It'll be good enough in this series, but when they get further, their supporting cast is going to have to be a lot better. Like, you got 14 from Pods in this one, 7 from Moody. You went 10 deep, none of which included Jonathan Kuminga. I think this is the nail in the coffin in terms of his career with Golden State. He needs a change of scenery, but I did find it very interesting that in a game against an athletic Rocket squad, you didn't have one of your best athletes out there in Kuminga.
And I've seen some of the Warriors' Twitter complaining about this, you know, because Buddy Hield hasn't really been good. Only 15 minutes, 2 points off the bench. And you are right. Yeah, they went 10 deep in this game. And yeah, you only get 14 points off the bench. That's a concern. That is a concern. I think you got to get more. And with Buddy Hield not giving you what he's giving you, you know, why not throw out Jonathan Kuminga? What I find interesting too, CP, is Jonathan Kuminga is a guy they did not want to involve in any of these trades,
right?
Even for Jimmy Butler, right? Like, they did not want to involve him in these trades from all the reporting we saw out there. So you're holding on to him, but he's not now getting experience in playoff games, and I think he's a very talented player. I do wonder what you're saying. Does he need to change the scenery? If you're not going to get him off the bench, maybe there's something behind the scenes we don't know, but you think they could use his size and athleticism, particularly in this matchup. You would think they could use it.
Yeah. Got to be interesting to see how that goes forward. But that was probably the most interesting, or definitely the most interesting game of Sunday night. But, you know, Rockets, they didn't even crack 90. They had 95 to 85. So who's going to provide that offense for them will be the question. You had 10 points for Van Fleet. Who else? Jalen Green, 7. 3 of 15. But Jalen Green's that type, man. He's a very erratic scorer. You know, Sengun, I think the offense should be going through Sengun. He did his thing, 26 and 9. 1 assist, though. They just don't have enough scoring, man.
They're gonna live with that. I think teams are gonna live with that until Amen Thompson. We got to remember, this is his first time in the playoffs.
True.
I think he could be that guy. I'm inclined to be with you and say I would go after a guy like a Booker, because that's what this team is at that point. They're right at the door where it's like they need a guy. Amen Thompson might be better suited and ease as number 2. I was high on Jalen Green coming out of the draft. I don't think he's it. He's way too streaky of a shooter. And his shot selection's gotten better, but I think that's the problem. Late in the game, you saw a lot of Van Vliet, Sengun pick and rolls. I guess Sengun was fantastic. 36 minutes, 11 of 18, 9 boards. You said only the 1 assist, but the Warriors are going to let him have that. They're going to say, all right, you can kill us inside, but none of these guys are going to do anything from outside. Dylan Brooks, we love his intensity, streaky shooter. Amen Thompson, 4 of 9, he was fine, but he's not getting up enough shots. And you could just see the indecision. Tari Eason had more shots than Amen Thompson off the bench. So, you know, there you go there. And I think Rockets, good team, hard fighting team, but you need a little bit more offensive punch. You need that guy that can bring it home for them in crunch time.
Need a little bit more, man. So those were the teams we felt like made a statement during the opening weekend. No, we're not going to talk about the 50-point loss by the Grizzlies.
We're not?
Nah, it ain't worth talking about. We ain't talking about that, man. But we just talking about the teams that made a statement to go rapid fire around the league, man. Great show, Dex. Let the people know where they can find you, man.
You can find me at D Henry TV on all platforms. Catch us if you are not. I tell people, if you can get to the game, go to the game. If you can't go to the game, check out CP's Knicks Fan TV watch party, because that's always fantastic at the Ainsworth. If you are home and you want to watch a game with something, watch it with me, Brian Fonseca, Al Cintron, New York Post Sports YouTube channel will be there. There's a lot of options for the Knicks fans, which is beautiful. So check it out. A lot of more New York Got Game live shows coming up later this week.
Yes, sir. And once again, salute to everybody watching, man. Knicks Fan TV side, NBA Report side, Bleacher Report. Make sure to follow us on the NBA Report, man. We'll be doing these weekly shows, wrapping up or catching up on the NBA playoffs, man. So we'll go around the league, talk about the latest news and things of that nature as well, man. So make sure that you guys are subscribing over on the NBA Report on YouTube. All right, so for Knicks Nation, remember, watch party, KFTVWatch.com. Get your tickets. We'll be live play-by-play. Also, you can catch the broadcast on MSG. Mike and Clyde will be on the ones and twos. And then post-game, man, will be live right here on Knicks Fan TV. Once again, salute to our franchise channel members. Salute to you, Dex. And we'll see you guys next week, man. Peace.
Peace.